Gorillas in video games. Now, to be honest, there haven't been that many, but a few of the names that spring to mind are George from Rampage, Amadar, and Toki. Whether they were classified as the protagonist or antagonist, you knew if you encountered one of these in a game, some serious stuff was about to go down. The most popular gorilla by far would have to be the big bad girlfriend snatching, construction site climbing, Atkins diet needing Donkey Kong. Today, though, we are not talking about the King of Kongs, nor are we talking about the 1933 movie Son of Kong. We are not even talking about Bedtime for Bonzo. We are talking about Donkey Kong Jr., the follow-up to the 1981 Nintendo Classic. What was Shigeru Miyamoto's inspiration for this game? Was Luigi actually in this game a full year before his official debut in Mario Brothers? So grab that vine and rescue your pappy. This is the history of Donkey Kong Jr. The year is 1982 and legendary Nintendo designer Shigeru Miyamoto was planning out his next arcade game. Whoa, stop the clock. We can't go any further until we talk about the one that started it all, which would be 1981's Donkey Kong. In 1980, Nintendo of Japan had released an arcade game called Radarscope, and it was very successful in Japan. But in America, it was a bigger flop than my first night as an adult film star. In a panic, the president of Nintendo of America, Minoru Arakawa, pleaded with his father-in-law, the president of Nintendo of Japan, Hiroshi Yamauchi, to send him a new game to convert these unsold Radarscope cabinets into something new. It was reported out of 3,000 units that were shipped to the USA, only 1,000 were sold. The task at coming up with something new for these unsold cabinets was given to Shigeru Miyamoto. At the time, Nintendo was trying to license the IP Popeye, and Mr. Miyamoto felt this would be a great fit for his new game. Unfortunately, they could not come to an agreement with King Features, so he decided to create brand new characters instead. Olive Oil became Pauline, Bluto became Donkey Kong, and Popeye became Jumpman, later renamed to Mario. His other influences for the game included Beauty and the Beast and King Kong. When designing the follow-up to Donkey Kong, his bosses at Nintendo wanted more of the same, which would be the same type of game but with new levels. Instead, Mr. Miyamoto went in a different direction and decided to create a new game with new gameplay, but this time around make Jumpman, who has now been officially renamed Mario, the antagonist, and Donkey Kong the protagonist. During development, he harkened back to his childhood and his love of manga and various fiction books, specifically stories that involve sidekicks including Robin, Huckleberry Finn, and others would inspire him to create another brand new character by the name of Donkey Kong Jr. In his revised documents, Donkey Kong is kidnapped by Mario and you as Jr. have to rescue him. As the story goes, Donkey Kong is upset after being bested by the dastardly nefarious evil Mario, and he has really hit a low point in his life. After meeting up with another big giant hairy Mamma Jamma, 9 months later the world welcomed another addition to the Kong household, Donkey Kong Jr. Donkey Kong Jr. was released in the arcades by Nintendo in 1982. The nefarious Mario has kidnapped Donkey Kong and is selling him to a zoo. So you take on the role of Jr. and set out to rescue your father and stop Mario once and for all. You control Jr. with a joystick by moving left and right and up and down with one standard jump button. Similar in level structure to the original Donkey Kong, the game takes place across 4 stages, which includes vines, springboard, chains, and Mario's hideout. As Junior, you have to avoid the various traps and pitfalls Mario has laid out for you. There are vines, chains, and wires for you to climb as you have to make it to the top of each level where dear old dad is locked in his cage. You can grab 2 vines at the same time, which will make you climb even faster. Scattered among the vines are pieces of fruit, which, if timed correctly, can be knocked loose to take out your enemies. You also get a small point bonus for doing this. The enemies you encounter are snapjaws, nitpickers, sparks, and birds who also drop eggs. It is possible to jump over your foes, but you have to time it just right. When jumping between platforms, make sure you land that jump because missing it will kill you. At the top of each level are a series of locks which have to be activated. In the opening of the game, we see not one but 2 Marios pulling Donkey Kong in his cage to the top of the level. Rumor has it that the second Mario you see is actually Luigi making his first video game appearance. Now, why is he dressed identically to Mario? Perhaps it was laundry day. Perhaps there was a 2-for-1 sale when Mario bought his outfit and gave one to Luigi. Who knows? But I tend to believe that this is the first appearance of the character. After stage 2, there is a nice cutscene progressing the story. On the final stage, which is the chain level, there are 6 locks you have to activate in order to free Donkey Kong. Once you do, the floor disappears and Donkey Kong falls, but this time Junior catches him just in the nick of time. You and your pappy make your escape, but Mario tries to stop you and gets a big giant Kong foot for all of his troubles. After this, the game repeats at a higher difficulty. The game was a financial success for Nintendo, but not quite as big as the original Donkey Kong, which is a bit understandable considering how huge the first one was. Similar to Senior, Junior had a number of collectibles released, including breakfast cereal, figures, stickers, activity books, and more. He was given the Game & Watch treatment, which I had as a child and thought was pretty good. He also received a couple of different tabletop electronic games. He was also a part of the Saturday Supercade cartoon show on CBS. Junior has made at least 20 appearances in various other video games over the years, including Donkey Kong Jr. Math, Super Mario Kart, Mario Tennis, and Super Smash Bros. The game was converted to a number of home systems and some of them turned out pretty well, but others? Not quite so much. Before we get started though, let's check out this classic retro commercial.
Got Donkey Kong, and now I'll get you too, Junior.
I'm Donkey Kong Jr., and that's my papa. I'm trying to save him, and boy, do I need your help.
Nintendo's Donkey Kong Jr., the arcade game, is now the Super Home Video game.
Save your papa, huh? Save yourself first.
He's chasing me with snapping jaws, and I could fall.
Help Donkey Kong Jr. save his papa on your ColecoVision, Atari 2600 VCS, or Intellivision video game system.
Game players everywhere, please help me save my papa.
The first version we are looking at today is the Atari 2600 port, and upon first glance it looks okay. If you close your left eye slightly and hop on your right foot. The basics are here, meaning we have 7 or 8 straight vines and a few platforms to jump on. The trapjaw enemies are the size of baby scorpions, and there is absolutely no fruit to collect. When Junior is climbing up and down the vines, I can't tell if he is rocking out to the latest Fozzy album or having a seizure. The music and sound effects are adequate at first, although after 5 minutes they started to bore a hole into my head. There are also no introductory or end level cutscenes. On a positive note, the controls are okay and there are 3 stages this time around instead of only 2 as found in the original Donkey Kong for the 2600. Moving on up in quality just a tad bit, let's take a look at the Intellivision version. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the graphics have been given a significant upgrade and look much closer to the arcade original. Except that Junior is now an albino and Mario looks like he's been on an eggplant diet for the last 5 months. How about those sound effects? Holy moly, I've got one thing to say, farts and queefs amundo. There is also a definite lag in the controls when trying to perform certain moves. It's not much, but it's there. The absolutely horrible disc controller that the Intellivision uses doesn't help matters either. You also can no longer fall off the vine onto a platform but have to be lined up perfectly, which is very annoying. Speaking of the vines, we do have lovely fruit this time around to drop on the heads of your enemies who actually look like the arcade version. Similar to the 2600 port, there are 3 stages this time around instead of 2 as found in the original. The ColecoVision port is up next, and for its time it was one of the best on the market. It's by no means perfect as it's missing most of the cutscenes and the graphic detail has been shrunk down considerably, but overall it's easily recognizable as Donkey Kong Jr. The fruit and enemy sprites are only one color, but overall they look really good. The Donkey Kong sprite looks pretty good, but it appears he's either having a siesta or Mario drugged him. The sound effects and music are not too bad and the controls are nice and responsive. Let's stick with the Coleco line and talk about the Coleco Adam version, which came on the DDP cassette. Thanks to the extra storage space on the DDP, all of the cutscenes have been included as well as a nice arcade-accurate title screen. All 4 of the stages have been included this time around, and there are even certain prototypes floating around the internet that include an extra brand new 5th stage, which I believe is Mario's Bakery. The reason this is not included was that Nintendo did not give Coleco the authorization to further add new content to the game, so they had to release it without it. Thankfully, it was released, and here we are, 37 years later, and we are able to play it on our favorite emulator. The Atari 8-bit computer version is up next and it looks fantastic. The sprites are very close to the arcade game minus some loss in color. The gameplay is not as smooth as other versions, but overall it's not too bad. The game has all 4 stages and even some of the cutscenes made it over. The ending of the chain stage is intact with Mario getting the boots, although it is a little bit different from the arcade game. The sound is really good with faithful renditions of the arcade tunes. The controls are nice and tight, although the difficulty seems to have been ramped up just a bit from the arcade original. The Atari 7800 version looks very good. Not only do the sprites match the arcade game, but the colors are very close as well. The only downside is that a lot of the cutscenes are missing, including the opening introduction, Mario pushing away Donkey Kong after you activate the key on each stage, and the final animation of Donkey Kong falling and Junior catching him. In this version, Mario just straight up and dies without even getting a big boot from the Big Mac Daddy. Thankfully, we get all 4 stages, which is a definite plus. The sound effects and music are absolutely horrible, and without even thinking twice about it, I would prefer farts and queefs over this abomination. It's almost like looking at a Picasso while having Justin Bieber blaring in your ear. It just doesn't fit. The controls are very good and it feels like Donkey Kong Jr. The NES conversion is the one most people are probably familiar with, and graphically it is almost identical to the arcade game. The sprites are large and detailed and the animation is absolutely perfect. The sound effects and music are spot on and they sound great. We get all 4 stages, but unfortunately, most of the cutscenes are missing, including at the end of the chain stage, where similar to the 7800 version, Donkey Kong falls with Junior catching him and Mario just dies, without even smelling Donkey Kong's big foot. Control-wise, it's really good and plays exactly like the arcade game. Now, usually I don't talk about homebrew content on the channel, but one that was recently released was Donkey Kong Jr. for the Commodore 64, which never had a conversion. The graphics have been recreated from scratch with hints taken from the original arcade game and the NES version. They look fantastic with only a slight loss of color over the arcade original. The animation and gameplay is smooth like butter. The sound effects and music have also been recreated to take full advantage of the SID chip and they sound great. All 4 stages are included, but some of the cutscenes are missing. Overall though, this is a fantastic conversion and it's just too bad this was not released back in the day. The game has been released several times over the years for systems such as the Game Boy Advance, 3DS, Nintendo Wii, Nintendo Wii U, and the Nintendo Switch. Donkey Kong Jr. was an instant classic when it hit arcades back in 1982. Thankfully, Mr. Miyamoto made the right call by going in his own original direction instead of giving us more of the same as found in the original Donkey Kong. Not only is the gameplay unique, but so is the storyline with evil Mario running amok. The game is still a lot of fun to play and is a lot more challenging than the original Donkey Kong. If you've never had a chance to try this game out and you want to help Junior rescue his pappy, be sure and give it a shot. You'll be glad you did. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my content. Also, if you would like to support me on Patreon, I will leave a link below. Thank you so much for watching.